Anyway, who first used the expression OMG?
Was it Hannah Montana?
It wasn't Hannah Montana.
That's my guess.
It's a good guess. A reasonable guess.
I'm guessing that in the past it's meant something else.
No, as oh my God.
Oh my God.
Jesus.
Oh my God.
Not... No, this is genuinely the use of OMG in a communication.
Is it going to be on a Morse code?
No, though, funnily enough, you're in the right area. It was
military.
Kissinger?
It's not military, naval. It was two of the great naval figures of the First World War. Who was the First Lord of the Admiralty during
Churchill.
I have no idea.
Churchill. Churchill, Winston Churchill. But the great Lord Fisher, in 1917, wrote a letter to Winston Churchill saying, I hear that a new order of knighthoods is on the tapis, meaning on the carpet. OMG, shower it on the Admiralty. So there you are. Oh, my God.
What year was that, sorry?
1917.
OMG.
Yeah,
That's
OMG.
a really good fact.
That's a good fact, isn't it?
Can we be certain he meant, oh my God? He might have meant...
Yes, no, he definitely did. He put oh my God in brackets afterwards. He wrote OMG
that
brackets.
rather ruined the point of abbreviating
I know.
to the same
But as he
time.
was the first user, I guess he had to explain it.
OMG, by which I mean, of course, the longer expression, oh my God.
Oh my God.
Eric Partridge's Dictionary of Abbreviations in 1942 contained dozens of SMS-friendly examples, such as AGN for again, MTH for month, and GD for good. So they pre-existed.
But I heard someone vocalise LOL. I actually heard someone said LOL as opposed to laugh. There's two kids in the street, and I told them a joke, and she went, LOL, like that.
Rather than laugh.
Rather than laugh.
Yeah.
That's just some horrible post-Orwellian nightmare.
It is.
Amazing. How amazing is that going to be at stand-up gigs if people just, an audience starts
Exactly.
going,
LOL. Yeah. Let's just try it. No,
hang on
after
a second.
three. I'll just say the word LOL with as little expression as you can. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. LOL. That's the...
Tim Minchin has actually suggested that because people don't laugh out loud when they say lol, that he suggests MAS, mildly amused smirk. Which would be quite good, because that's what happens.
Nelly is another one that you could have.
Yeah?
Nelly, N-E-L-I, not even laughing inwardly.
But you'd be impressed to know that in 1659 is the first use of to unfriend, which we thought was a modern Facebook phrase. But to unfriend was used by Thomas Fuller, who wrote to theologist John Heylin, I hope, sir, that we are not mutually unfriended by this difference which hath happened betwixt us.
yes. And then I believe his friend wrote back that he liked that letter.
Yeah, he liked that. So, now, what would be the best planet in the solar system to take your annual holiday in or on? Yes.
Earth.
Absolutely the right answer, I frankly say. I don't think there could be a better answer.
Well, the great advantage of Earth is that you can survive on it.
Yes.
So lovely on a holiday, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
To just
breathe
live
air
through
again.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Hello.
Uranus,
Why Uranus?
because it would be much longer.
Ah, now there you're getting very interesting. It's about how long a year is or a season is.
How long is a Uranian year?
A Uranian year is 84 Earth years.
84.
But each day is only 17 hours, so again, it spins faster than us.
So how long would a fortnight be?
It's a very good question indeed.
17 times 14 would be a fortnight.
Would be a fortnight.
How long's a year on Jupiter, then?
A year is about 12 of our years, but it spins very quickly. So a day on Jupiter is only about 10 hours.
So you might not get a longer holiday the further away from...
And I think I'd need those
also-
things that go around your wrists so you don't get travel sick if it's spinning like that.
That's right. Jupiter is also entirely gas, which is not really very nice. The shopping and the sightseeing opportunities are amazing. A layer of black liquid hydrogen, 27,000 miles thick, crushes carbon into diamonds that are literally the size of the Ritz. So you could really get some serious bling from Jupiter.
Try to deal with that.
Yeah.
Sort of that size, a diamond the size of a hotel.
And another thing that's rather exciting is that it precipitates neon rather than water in the atmosphere, which creates brilliant, bright red rain. It's fabulous. That would be so pretty. So, but
It'd be lovely to go, wouldn't it?
that's there.
You
But
don't
with a
want
certain
rain on
depth.
holiday, though, do you? Even if it's bunny.
That storm, that eye, as they call it, which is in the middle of Jupiter, is about 4 times the size of the Earth. So that's, you know.
So essentially, Jupiter's a nightmare. Because if your annual holiday, not only is it a shorter fortnight, it only happens once every 10 years.
Yes, that is true.
Very bad.
Venus, on the other hand, rotates incredibly slowly. A fortnight's break on Venus would last over 15 years. That's how long the days are.
But
The
you
weather-
need factor 980 there.
Oh, the weather is awful. It's clouds of sulfuric acid. The surface is hot enough to melt aluminium, so you need really thick flip-flops. And the atmospheric pressure is equivalent to being half a mile under the sea on Earth. The air isn't very fresh. It's mostly carbon dioxide. So it really is a bit...
You'd
it's a
only
bit
wanna-
like being in an Abethan club at about 6 in the morning.
You'd only want a week there, wouldn't you? You'd only want a week.
You'd only want a week on
15,
Venus.
yeah.
So it begins with J and appears to be alive.
Is it me?
You begin with J and are most magnificently, radiantly alive.
He's on the turn.
Lisa.
James Blunt.
Closer, I grant you. Yeah.
Jeremy Clarkson.
This is something that appears to be alive and quite obviously isn't.
Jedward, then. I'm revising my agenda.
So much work
Take care
to
of
do. Yes, but in order to find out whether the brain is working, there's a machine that is used by doctors, an electroencephalograph, and you can tell whether a brain is alive by attaching it. And there is something that quite manifestly isn't alive, but if you attach that same machine to it, will give off the same signals as a brain.
Is it jelly?
Yes.
Fucking hell. I can't quite believe how intelligent I am sometimes.
No, no,
How did I get that?
it was wonderful.
You're a genius. Is it any type of jelly, or is it...
Well, sort of large jelly in a mould on which you could fit the electrodes of an EEG.
Oh, that kind of jelly, right.
From its EEG results alone, it would not qualify as sufficiently dead to have its life support removed. That's the point. I know that seems insane. The reason it
All
seems...
the other jellies sitting around the bedside weeping.
Yes. He's still alive, he's still alive. You can't turn it off.
Comforting one another.
Yeah, yeah.
One outside having a fag.
One wobble for yes, 2 wobbles for no. Neurologist Adrian Upton examined the electroencephalography of gelatin desserts, as he put it, to make a serious point about brain death. Because what happens is the jelly picks up extraneous electrical signals in the room from sources like respirators, IV drips, even ringing telephones. The implication is that a brain apparently generating similar signals may in fact be quite dead. On the other hand, it may well be quite alive. It isn't enough to use an EEG to tell whether someone's alive, that's the point.
So
Jelly is always wobbling just a little bit.
It's always going to be wobbling a little bit. But it is rather extraordinary, isn't it? An amazing thought. At least I think it is.
Lovely thought.
It doesn't mean that EEGs are useless. They just have to be considered with other things to suggest whether or not someone is conscious or alive.
Is that an excitable jelly just there that's suddenly flatlined?
Is that right?
Well, now, let's play Stick the Knees on the Elephants. You should have cards with elephants on, and you should have little red dots. And all you have to do is stick your red dot on the knees of the elephant. It's as simple as that. It's a little fun art craft thing that you can do.
I feel a little bit like we've underperformed and we've been taken to a special class.
Yes, that's right. More or
Where it's
less
mainly
right.
arts and crafts and colouring in, and you know what? You can't fail. We've all done very well.
That's right.
I'm just doing polka dots.
Very sweet, but try and do it on the knees of the elephant if you can.
I think elephants have got a lot of knees. That's my. Because otherwise, why would you have given us this many dots?
That's just a lot of You don't have to use all the dots, I may say.
This elephant's actually got the same thing that Jack used to have at the top of his thigh. It turns out it was nothing, but it was a real worry.
Yes.
I've marked his sphincter on there as well.
So have
Well
I.
done. Oh,
so
there
have
you are.
I. We've got
snap.
matching sphincters.
Yes. All right, so if you'd like to present and show.
So, sphincter, eyes, because it's nice to get to know them. And 4 knees.
Can you just tilt the cards forward a bit so they're not too shiny? They reflect on the camera
I've
there.
gone 4 knees on each.
Are you tilting it forward a bit as asked?
Sorry.
No, you're not.
I can't get taken down to a lower class than this.
Yeah, there you go.
What are you doing, arts and crafts?
Dear, oh dear, oh dear.
Knees and knees.
Well, I mean,
Mine's a daddy
Knees on the
elephant
front,
there,
none on the back.
everyone except Alan has at least managed to put dots on the knees, which are at the back of the elephant, because the front 2 joints are elbows. Oh. All mammals, essentially.
Whoa, hang on. Whoa,
Yeah.
You're going to have to back up there a little bit. He's got elbows on his
On his front legs, yes. His front legs are essentially arms. I mean, the bones in his front leg are the radius and the ulna, just like ours. They're essentially walking on their hands and on their hind legs. And we may think of elephants as having 4 knees. They don't. They only have the 2 knees at the back. The 2 front ones are elbows. It seems unlikely, but it's true.
That means my interesting bar fact that I tell everybody, that the elephant is the only animal in the world that has 4 knees, is complete rubbish.
Exactly. And it's a common fact you'll find on the internet, and it's a lie.
Wow.
And any zoologist will tell you so. So, I'm afraid it's -10 to everybody except Alan. There you go. That's very good. So, well done, Alan. In fact, you got it right, didn't you, in the end?
No, I didn't. I put 2 knees. I thought it only had 2 knees,
Which it does.
but I put them on the front.
Oh, you
The elbow.
Yeah, well, yes, you get the -10.
How many jellyfish are there here?
In that picture?
Yeah.
What is it? One with a very flamboyant hat on. Sorry, where are the words with a flamboyant hat on?
It was the one that was enough, but it is a flamboyant hat. The flamboyant hat gives it its name. If you've ever seen a Portuguese conquistador, they wore hats like that.
They didn't have many in Croydon.
They didn't know, but
Is it a man o' war?
a Portuguese man of war is what it is, but
nice.
it's not. I'll give you a clue that it's not a jellyfish, and it isn't even a single creature. Portuguese man of war is not one animal. It's a colony of animals that operate together as one.
Like the Borg.
Incredibly, yes, we are Borg. Exactly.
Borg.
We
are jellyfish.
Why isn't it called the Men of War then?
I know it should be, because originally people didn't understand that, and so they called it the Portuguese man of war because it looked like a Portuguese helmet on the top. The inflatable bladder along the top is one creature which provides buoyancy and works as a sail. The tentacles are separate and carry the coiled, spring-loaded harpoons, which have the most incredible speed. They explode in 700 billionths of a second, which is the fastest known animal mechanism on Earth, and it's very painful. And there are other creatures that make part of this colony, gastrozooids, which digest the food, and gonozoids, which are the gonads, the sexual reproduction
So
part
they're
of it.
separate. So you've got
They're actually separate creatures.
the stomach floats along, and then you've got the gonads behind.
Yep.
So the stomach's looking for its bollocks, essentially. in the middle of the
It's called a siphonophore, that kind of a creature. And because they drift passively, they collect in vast herds of thousands or so. And that's why the appearance of one is enough to clear an Australian beach, as you probably know. You see, because one tends to mean there are going to be lots. And the sting is very painful. 10,000 Australians a year, on average, receive a Portuguese man-of-war sting. Not pleasant.
Toughens you up, though.
No, exactly.
I mean, that's
exactly.
life, isn't it? You
One
gotta-
day it'll toughen you up enough to win a test match against us. How many
You don't need
times
to
in
take
history have I been in a position to be able to say that?
I
Not
know,
many.
and I enjoyed
That's
it
exactly.
so much.
What did the environmentalists say to the camel?
Stop farting. They produce a lot of methane.
Yes, they do. Where in particular?
Out there are.
No, there's a particular place where camels are
Known for it.
extremely numerous. Where-
Egypt.
Yes, but this is a place
Oh, no,
where...
Australia. Is it Australia?
Australia.
We've got more wild camels in Australia than anywhere else on the planet.
Exactly. They have the highest number of feral camels. In fact, they have 1.2 million of them.
I like rats. They're vermin.
Yeah.
They get in your house.
Yeah,
It's
and
a
you can
nightmare.
see this. Only that sign
traps
could be
down
Australia, couldn't it? Look at it. Camel, wombat, kangaroo. But the fact is, they export them to Arabia for meat
right, they
and
do,
for
yes.
racing.
Because they're a finer sort of species of
They were brought over originally as a pack animal to Australia. They seemed very natural because Australia's a dry country and camels survive well, obviously, in dry climates. People thought perfect, but of course they bred and they bred and they bred, and suddenly you've got these 1.2 million camels.
Yeah.
And they do an enormous amount of anal wind expulsion.
they were on a download, actually.
45... It's actually...
This important or catch
To be fair to them, it's not so much anal as oral. It's 45 kilograms of methane a year. It's quite extraordinary. It's a sixth the amount of the average car. So now there's a company called Northwest Carbon, which has set up a thing where you offset your carbon footprint, if you're an Australian car driver, by paying this company to go and shoot camels. Which is basically a bit unfair because, let's face it, Europeans with cars are as unnatural to Australia as camels are. And it seems a bit unfair. Why shouldn't the camels shoot the humans?
Yes.
Here's the thing, though. While we're talking about all this whole business of ecology, Sainsbury's, the supermarket chain, very useful supermarket chain. The great thing about Sainsbury's, it keeps the scum out of Waitrose. All right, here's an initiative announced by Sainsbury's.
Go
on. By reducing the diameter of the tube of a loo roll from 123 millimetres to 112 millimetres, right? Just 11 millimetre reduction. They will be able to fit more rolls into the same lorry. Given the scale of the loo roll market, we use 45 to 50 rolls a year each. And that's including you.
I do that over weekend.
Yes, all right. This will mean 500 fewer lorry trips a year just by doing that, by reducing the centre tube by 11 millimetres.
Well, this is the principal difference between men and women, in my view, is the amount of loo roll that women use is unbelievable.
What is it about humans and big ears?
They get bigger.
They get bigger.
Ears get bigger.
Yeah, I mean, old men do seem to have longer ears, but the trouble is no one's done a study where they've measured their ears when they were younger. Because it could well be, it's logical,
The head's
that
getting smaller.
actually having large ears is a predictor of a long life.
Oh. I know what that man did for a living.
What's that?
He was a bowler hat model.
He was a very fine bowler hat model.
I've got quite big ears, but I can also see what it's like to be someone whose ears are flat against the side of the head, because I can go like that.
Oh, my goodness!
And I can hold it so it's like having an instant facelift, like that.
How do you do that?
Well, I can't really talk like this as well. I'll tell you later. It means I can do a thing like when you do it on a roller coaster and you're just going over the top of your...
I bet your so-called serious brother Jeremy can't do that.
He can't do that.
Yeah, that's another way.
He could
another
host a
win.
phone-in about it, though, couldn't
Yes,
he?
do call in if you can wiggle your ears.
No problem with your ears. Give us a ring now. Go on.
He did once on his show, genuinely, I thought they were running out of things to do that day. He said, please, and this was, honestly, it wasn't a joke, he said, please phone in if the sound of your own voice terrifies you. That was a phony topic.
Did anyone call in?
Screaming.
Any calls?
Yeah, they had some people ring up, yeah.
Sobbing.
So
Help me, I'm so afraid!
What lives underwater and is the loudest animal in the world for its size?
Greg Proops.
Oprah.
Good answer, but untrue.
Is it going to be a blue whale?
Oh, you were doing so well.
No, it's the largest in relation to its size. The noise it makes is quite astounding. When I tell you that its size is 2 millimetres, and it creates a sound of over 99 decibels, which is like a freight train passing by. It's an incredibly loud noise, and it's a little lake creature, actually. Do you know those things that almost seem to walk on water? Do you remember what they're called?
Our Lord.
You could call this the Jesus insect if you wanted. It's a water boatman. The water boatman is a beautiful little creature, and it uses the surface tension of the water, there you see, to walk along the water.
That's a pond skater, of course.
So unlike a blue whale in almost every respect.
The noise it gives out is like a passing freight train. We have a theory how they produce it, and we'd like you to try out our theory. They use their penises against their tummies.
Peni.
Peni, if you like, penises, if you wanted to speak in English. But, by all means, peni, if you like. They rub their penises on their tummy and somehow create a noise of 99.2 decibels.
But that's just a theory, though, right?
Yep.
Because I put my penis against my belly, it don't make no noise.
If you really whack it, though, if you...
Steady.
It depends on if I have to get up in a hurry. Like if I got
and imagine that it's a penis, all right? You pass that to Greg.
You know, imagining is not helping, but all right.
Obviously, there's yours, Alan. No. You can have a normal one. Now, this is quite complicated, but you should have a little bowl of rosin, as in the kind of stuff that ballet dancers use to keep their shoes from sliding on the stage and string players use for their bows. Ordinary rosin. Oh, very good. Listen to that noise. Keep doing that. You're rubbing, you're trying to... It gets surprisingly loud, doesn't it? Like...
Oh, God, yes!
I don't seem to be attracting any boatmen or women.
Not getting 99 decibels.
There, you see that?
This is still louder, though.
Is that yours?
But isn't that surprising?
Wow.
It was like Mars attacks.
Yeah.
Our brains will explode.
Solo.
Alan's very good at it, isn't he?
How have you given him a wand? Is that a wand?
What does a robot jockey do?
Ah, yeah, these robot jockeys ride camels, don't they?
You are good, and you've already got the points.
Yeah, the robot jockeys, they're a form of racing in Dubai, in particular, and perhaps across
in the
whole
UAE generally.
They have camel racing, and the camels, I think at that speed probably couldn't take human weight on them. They have to be quite small. So I am presuming at some stage they experimented with either little people or with children. Yeah.
And it was reintroduced by King Fahd of Saudi Arabia in the 1970s, and children were indeed taken from their parents and were forced to be the jockeys on these camels.
What do you mean taken from their parents? People would just turn up at a random house?
I'm afraid, as you probably know, much of the service industries are performed by Sri Lankans and Indians. The Gulf Arab people themselves don't do much of the basic work, and it was Indian children who were taken to be jockeys. It was not a pleasant story, and there's no way of dressing it up nicely.
And how much control do they have over the camels exactly?
Well, they've got reins, and they also have GPS, so they know where they are. Now, you may say, why they put a face and a hat and costume on it. The fact is, the camels were spooked out when the robots just looked like machines. The camels were much more relaxed at the idea that it was a human on them, because they've sort of grown used to the idea.
Right.
So these only weigh a few kilos. They're not that expensive, about $500 each. They whip the camels by remote control, because the managers are following in a truck. So they do whip, I'm afraid. They're far lighter than the child jockeys, and I suppose it's less inhumane. They were designed in Switzerland.
Please, may I tell you the only camel joke that I know?
Please.
OK.
There's 2 guys in the army out in the desert, and there's a new recruit, and there are no women around at all, and the new recruit says, what do we do for sex? And the old guy says, I'm afraid it's the Camels. And so that evening, they're all let out towards the Camels, and the old bloke's running really fast, and the young guy says, what are you doing? It's only a camel. And he goes, yeah, but you don't want to get an ugly one, do you?
So, what are those camels we're looking at? What sort of camels are they?
I'm sorry. There is another camel joke. Sorry. Which is same starting point. Initially taken for the first couple of bits and said, oh, I'm afraid there are no women here. I'm afraid it's the Camels. So late at night, the guy declares, I can't take it anymore. I'm as horny as hell. And he goes out and he rides the camel. And he comes back in and goes, well, that's the best we can do. And the man says, well, actually, when I said we've got the camels, we normally ride them into town.
Anybody else got any camel jokes?
No. How far can you go on a cup of joe? A cup of joe being an Americanism for...
Java? Coffee?
Coffee, a cup of coffee. Yeah, a cup of
I thought it was an insane cat. You actually ride on the back of Joe.
That is a somewhat caffeine-crazed cat.
That's a flat white too many for that little kitty.
It is rather, isn't it?
How far you can actually go in terms of energy?
No, it's more literal than that. If you're carrying a cup of coffee, how far can you go before you spill it? This is actually all down to science. What is the science of the movement of liquids called?
Wobbleology.
Fluid dynamics.
Yes.
Fluid dynamics is a whole science.
Fluid dynamics.
It's a whole science, and the most important one, and much has been discovered as a result of fluid dynamics. It is a very useful and fruitful area of discovery. But one of the things they've discovered is that the average human stepping pace happens to cause an oscillation, which means that between 7 and 10 steps, you are going to spill the coffee. You will set up a series of wave movements. That means the furthest you can go is probably about 10 steps before you will definitely have spilled some coffee.
This is the Mrs. Overall effect.
Yeah, exactly. But they suggest a flexible container to act as a sloshing absorber with a series of annular ring baffles. So they're just suggesting the...
Annular ring baffles?
That's a hobbit, surely.
That sounds like space.
You can order them online, can't you?
I'll tell you what, the amount of times my annular has been baffled. I'm always down the
Baffle your ring, sir.
Yeah.
Annular ring baffle is a bit of a tautology because annular means ring-like anyway, so it's a bit silly.
Annular ring baffle.
You used to take the baffle out of your exhaust pipe to make it louder.
That's right, yeah. I mean, baffling is sound muffling, isn't it? But it's also absorbing waves, and that's essentially the same thing, because if you're muffling sound, you're absorbing the
if
waves.
you put a baffle in your anus, that'll make you have quiet farts.
I suppose it would. Until pressure built up to such a stage.
Then you're potentially lethal.
And you could have someone's eye out in the aisle at Waitrose, which you wouldn't want. But there have been more obviously useful...
Baffle your ring, sir.
There have been more useful applications for this business of this whole resonance business of building up frequencies that cause oscillations that can be dangerous. Have you seen Albert Bridge in London? There's a particular sign. It sort of leads from Chelsea. There it is. It's a famous sign. It's a rather beautiful, one of London's most beautiful bridges. All troops must break step when marching over this bridge. Why would that be?
Something to do with an oscillation.
Yeah, exactly. If you're marching in rhythm, chunk, 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 you might set up a resonance that would cause the bridge to collapse.
That's why Michael Flatley can never get north of the Thames. For a reason. He's furious. He's always wanted to go to Madame Tussauds. Right now, he's at the Elephant and Castle going, I can't believe it. I want to go and see the Queen. I just can't get over there. It's a bleeding nightmare, so it is. Shocking state of affairs.
Good. Well, I think we've... Let's pin the knee on the bird. So stick a little sticker on the bird's knee. That's all you have to do.
Well, it's never going to be where I think it's going to be. In the knee bit.
Or it could be a double buff.
Oh, not a double bluff.
Well, I'm going to put in an early pitch for there. I'm going to say it's got a knee in its neck.
Right.
Oh, yeah, that's how it bends its neck. And it's a little quirk in nature.
Oh, and Jack's put one on.
You're not putting it on the knee, where the knee is.
But he bites.
No, because the bendy bit would be... Oh, no, that could be like a little camp arm.
The wings are going to be the arms this time, aren't they? The wings are the arms, aren't they? The wings are the arms.
Wings are the arms.
The legs are the legs. The legs have got the knees in.
The legs have got the knees in. The legs have got knees.
The knees where the bend in the middle.
The Bible is going
knees, I'm going in.
Going in, he's going in, he's going in, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm feeling a double bluff.
You're just covering the entire animal with red dots, Cal.
I've just
You're just turning it into...
I've given it a perm.
You're giving it a coxcomb. There we are. So you've... Ah, dear, I'm afraid, Alan, you've fallen into our little trap. Those are not the knees. People think birds' knees goes backwards. Those are ankles.
Oh, you see?
You see, those are ankles.
Something like that.
Here, maybe?
There. Now, Jack. Points for Jack. You lose one for the bottom one, which is there. Forget that one. Exactly.
It's an unusual flamingo, and then it's got a duck coming out of its arm.
It's pretty hard to deny.
Where are the duck's knees? For goodness sake? Ask the flamingo.
Yeah. Well, there are the knees at the top. They're usually covered in feather. And the bottom bit is the ankle. I know
So there's a very real chance if you kicked a flamingo in the knees and the balls at the same time. That's some pain, isn't it?
Whoa, yes.
Because they must be up in the same sort of area.
Yes, they don't really have testicles, though, do they? I mean, they have little sexual parts.
It'd be quite a
So
different...
as do I.
It'd be quite an unnerving sight as flocks of flamingos flew overhead if they did have dangling testicles.
Boy, girl, boy,
very worrying.
Boy, girl.
So do I get a point? Have I got a point?
I think you've got a point, Jack. Yeah.
There's an apple for you.
Oh, I can't tell you how much that works. That always works with
where
me.
that came from.
You, oh, bless you, apple.
Dance with an apple, next thing you know, you're in some sort of therapy. Be careful.
The rules on a pirate ship.
Rules?
Yeah. What sort of rules would they have?
Obviously, they've got a captain.
Yes.
So he's in charge. So I imagine he gets most of the gold and whatever they find.
Well, oddly enough, now, they had two senior officers, the captain and the quartermaster. And the captain could be vetoed by the quartermaster on all matters except battle, except rules of engagement when fighting. And they had strong laws. And the quartermaster was, he was about how much they divvied out, including he decided how much the captain got. The captain had no special quarters. He didn't have a, wonderful room such as you imagine in movies. So it's not exactly hierarchical. It's kind of a rule of two, the quartermaster and the captain. Otherwise, it was more or less a democracy in a strange sort of way, but with strict rules. For example, in Captain Bartholomew Roberts' ship, the Fortune, there was no gambling. It was like a boarding school. No smuggling girls into the dorm. No playing music on a Sunday. And lights out at 8 o'clock sharp in the evening.
Rubbish being a pirate.
I know. That's not quite what you imagine.
My dad, the captain. That's rubbish.
Where are you going to smuggle these girls from, anyway?
That's true.
You rescue one from the sea. No.
When it came to women aboard, the articles of Captain George Lowther, who was a famous pirate of his day, said, if at any time you meet with a prudent woman, that man that offers to meddle with her, without her consent, shall suffer present death. So meddling with a prudent woman without her consent got you death. So they really were very strict with each other.
So meddling was rape, really?
I think essentially we're talking about rape.
Lost its meaning by the time Scooby-Doo came on.
Exactly. Why you pesky kids haven't meddled?
Notorious gang rapists.
That's just terrible. I'm ashamed of you.
Why is the pirate's voice similar to the farmer's voice? Why? Is there something... Arr! Get off my land!
There's one man responsible. Do you know who it is?
It'll be a film actor.
Yes.
Oh, OK.
Treasure Island?
He played in a great performance of Treasure Island. And in fact, Tony Hancock, the great comedian, he first started out as an impersonator of this actor.
Lawton?
No, not quite as well known as Lawton. In his own day, he was very, very well known, but now less well known.
Anybody?
Someone we've mentioned on QI before.
Hang on a minute.
The chances of Alan remembering it are...
Someone in the front row saying, you've done this! This was on Dave on Tuesday. New fact.
Yeah, well, it was Robert Newton, anyway.
Robert Newton.
Thank you, yes.
Robert Newton.
Robert Newton is the right answer, but it doesn't count because we've had it before. There we are.
Prowse almost did that, didn't he, to Darth Vader? He has a West Country accent, didn't he?
Yes,
and he famously thought that he was going to be used, didn't he?
Yes.
With his West Country accent, he got redone.
I am
by
your
James Earl
father.
Jones. Very upset.
I'm your father, and I'm your brother as well.
See, I'll Tator on a big tractor, trundling down the corridors of the Death Star, chewing a bit of straw. Darth. Mr. Darth to you.
Mr. Darth. It's, yeah, anyway.
You know the skull and crossbone flag?
Yes.
Do they really have that? Because, I mean, that's really giving it away,
we
isn't
definitely
it?
covered that in the last
Oh,
series.
really? I must have missed
Alan will tell you all about it.
Go on.
Jolly Roger.
Well, yeah, everyone knows it's called. What is that a proposition? Maybe later, Alan.
It's been 10 years, Stephen, and I've finally come round to it. It's time for a Jolly Roger.
What's this little frog doing? What's this chap up to?
Wow. It's practicing first position?
No. What's going on in the background?
He's trying to build up his nerve into jumping in that gushing stream.
No,
He's just going, I can do this.
He's facing the other way.
I can do this.
Is he fishing? Is he catching things
No.
in his webbed?
I was thinking maybe there was a plane load of frogs trying to land. Well, you know, air traffic controller frog.
Air traffic controller frog. What is it about the background?
Running water, water stream,
what does that create? If you've got a waterfall behind you, how do you communicate with your neighbour? How do you shout?
It's sign language.
Yes.
No.
Semaphore.
Really?
It's the semaphore frog, because it lives by waterfalls and cataracts, and so little won't get heard. So that's how it communicates. Basically, it's saying to other males, this is my territory, keep away, or it's saying to girls, here I am. It is a wonderful sight. It solved the problem of the fact that it can't vocalise because it lives in a noisy environment. There are other ways of attracting mates which are unusual. Yes?
The internet.
If only you'd said what you often call the internet. What do you sometimes call it?
The interweb.
Yes.
Web spiders.
Spiders, yes.
Spiders make webs to catch prey so they can survive and thrive.
But there's a particular breed of spider. They ejaculate into a pad of webbing and transfer the sperm-laden pad to their palps, which are like their antennae, and then they wave them around to attract the food. I've got some sperm here. I've got some sperm for you.
Oh, God. I used to do that to my ex-girlfriend because...
Why am I not surprised by the word X in there?
Yeah, I mean, she just wanted to have a baby so bad. It was just real easy to get her excited like that. I got some sperm, and she'd come running, and I'd be like, I'm just kidding.
You'll probably each well out of it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
She's the better for it. I mean, in fact, I take pride in believing that I helped her prepare
And
for the
think
next
what
cat
you're
that she
saving on triple-ply tissues. There you are.
In some weird English way, I feel dealt with.
What should you avoid going to bed with? A jactitator or a jactitator?
The second one.
Why?
Because it means someone that wiggles about a lot.
Yes!
Who does it?
Yeah, the official name for it is Willis-Ekbom disease, also known as restlessness or particularly restless leg syndrome. That's one meaning of jactitation.
The other...
yes, the other is...
Is speaking unpleasantly of somebody.
No, nice that you're trying, and don't be put off. It's a very specific, I won't say crime exactly, it's a malfeasance, possibly. Yes. It's a wrongdoing that people do, and that is to maintain that you're married to someone when you aren't.
That's right.
You are so angry because if you're... Why are you angry? If a man says, oh, yeah, she's my wife, we're married, she goes, no, we're not. You can go to court and your remedy is a suit of jactitation of marriage, in which you ask the court to declare that you are not married to the person who is claiming that you are.
Is the jactitation, is it the denying of the marriage, or is it the maintaining the marriage, you're still married when you're not?
A jactitator is someone who claims to be married to you when they aren't.
So, ding-dong, darling, I'm home, you're not married to me.
Yes.
That is the bad guy is the ding-dong, darling, I'm home in this situation.
Exactly.
Stop doing this.
I could actually take you to court, because you never stop
saying that we are married. But we're married in comedy, Alan. We're married in comedy.
There you go again.
Comedy and erotic love. Those two, surely. Hello.
Do you know what the opposite is? Because my husband often says he's not married.
It's party treat time now. Isn't this exciting? I've got something really interesting for you to try. It's powdered miracle berry. Now, you should have a little cup like this. So if you can instantly put that pill, as it were, that's in your cup, in your mouth, I promise you it's not going to hurt you.
We don't even question.
Don't swallow it.
We're just doing it. Yes, Steve.
Don't swallow it. Please do it. Don't swallow it.
Show me your titties. We've been down this road before, mister.
Only bite it when you see the whites of the eyes.
Don't bite it. Don't bite it. Just really roll it around your mouth. Roll it around your tongue. It's quite sweet. It takes a little time for it to work, but when it does work, it's rather extraordinary.
It's like a dead refresher.
Yeah, it is, exactly.
My
Like,
head's
it's
just gonna
exactly what
open
it's
like
like. But just to try and do a bit of action on it, just so that you can get it to dissolve, spread it all over your tongue. It is quite miraculous. It's why it's called the miracle fruit. It's rather
Right, I've
exciting.
slightly crunched mine.
Oh, well, don't worry. Don't swallow. Don't swallow. Just keep...
Why not?
Keep it in your mouth. There's a good reason. I want for it to cover all of your tongue, because it does something extraordinary to your tongue, and that's what you're going to discover. So keep sucking. Keep sucking.
I must remember this speech.
Yeah. If you made them swallow,
it does something extraordinary to your tongue. Don't swallow it.
So do you feel you've got more or less coated yourself in it?
Yeah.
What it does is it actually gets rid of your tongue's ability to detect sour and bitter. So I want you to just take a bite on this lemon. You'll find, when you bite on the lemon, that it's not exactly sweet, but that it really has taken away 90% of its sourness.
I'm going in.
Isn't it? Your whole pill.
I've done a lot of coating. Oh, that's delicious.
Isn't it? It's extraordinary, isn't it?
Oh, that's good, isn't it?
None of you has pulled the kind of...
That is like a really sweet orange.
Exactly. It's
I'm
bizarre.
going to regret it later.
It is a most extraordinary experience.
I love that. Ooh,
and that will last for about half an hour, 20 minutes, half an hour.
I'm going to have chronic
You'll be able to have
gastritis in 20
lime.
minutes.
And it was very popular, this miracle fruit. They used to have parties where they'd have this kind of rainbow of different flavours that would occur, because it takes away your ability to taste the bitter or the sour, or indeed the salt. So everything becomes sweet, but it retains a little of its own flavour. But it does work,
Amazing.
doesn't it? It is, absolutely.
Although it is vitamin C, so internally I'm rebelling.
Just for the very fact that might even be slightly healthy.
Absolutely. No, a friend of mine used to go and feed the horse at the bottom of his garden when he was a kid bits of lemon, because it used to make brilliant faces.
That's just naughty.
It is cruel.
That's very naughty.
Very entertaining.
I'm going to save one in my pockets. I'm going to have one later. I'm going to give one to a friend.
You are. Yeah.
It's just...
We've witnessed something big tonight. Yeah. It's all over.
It will taste lovely for half an hour.
My favourite word is chili. It's not sour anymore, is it? It's not sour anymore. Right, it's all round the mouth.
And that's why I asked you to write a limerick. So have you got limerick for me? Any of you? I hope you have.
I do.
Oh, go on then.
Girls first.
Yeah.
I carouse in a style bacchanalian, but I sleep in a way marsupilian. I like to eat cheese, but I never say please. Yes, I'm French, but I'm also Australian.
Oh, very good. It's certainly better than the one I know about Australia. There was a young man from Australia who painted his arse like a dahlia. Tuppence a smell was all very well, but threepence a lick was a failure.
Alan, what have you got for us?
I've got... There once was a show on TV that was always the smart place to be.
Yeah.
I'm fully aware you'd rather be there, but instead you're stuck here with me.
Oh, very good. I like it.
I've got one about Rob Brydon.
Oh.
Just because I found something that rhymes with Brydon.
Yeah.
There was a young man called Rob Brydon whose favourite film was The Poseidon Adventure. And he would watch it regularly. That funny old man called Rob Brydon.
That's not an easy one. Yeah.
It's easy to win on QI. You don't need an IQ that's high. Try not to be haughty, just be a bit naughty and make sure you please Stephen Fry.
Yeah! Very good. Yes, Rob, what have you got for us?
Nothing, as will become evident. There once was a chap called Tim Vine.
Oh, hello.
Whose punning was simply sublime. Sat next to Alan... Oh, bugger. OK. There once was a man called Tim Vine, whose punning was more than just fine. Sat on the panel with no end of flannel, that lovely young chap called Tim Vine.
Oh, that's very good. Very fine.
This is one I read in one Piccolo book of jokes. There was a young man from Devizes whose ears were different sizes. One was quite small and no use at all. The other was huge and won prizes.
Oh, that's very sweet. I like that. Excellent. Well, the strange thing about them is no one knows why they are called limericks. They seem to have no relationship to the town of Limerick, but they continue to be popular and sometimes excessively rude. There was a young chaplain from King's who talked about God and such things, but his real desire was a boy in the choir with a bottom like jelly on springs. What is it about software engineers that drives people to violence?
I don't like software which anticipates needs I don't have. The sort of spell checker thing which corrects your spell which you didn't want to spell. I've got RSI now from correcting the corrections on my phone.
If I want to type the C word, and I do sometimes, it comes up with Cynthia, and that's my mother-in-law's name. And she's lovely. It seems so unfair.
Let's hope it doesn't work the other way round.
Unfortunately, in the original Greek, it is Cynthia. Is it? There is no letter Y in Greek. It's an upsilon.
That's alarming.
It is Cynthia. Yeah, I'm going back to the very first software engineer that ever was.
Babbage.
Well, Babbage owed an enormous debt to this person.
Ada Lovelace.
Ada Lovelace also owed a debt to this person. Ada Lovelace wanted to use the... You've done very well. Ada Lovelace was the daughter of...
Mr. Software.
So disappointing.
Because, you have a Mr. Baker, don't you?
Yes, you do.
And a Mr. Butcher.
Old
Mr.
Jeremiah
Cooper.
Software.
But it's so much more interesting that she happened to be the daughter of Lord Byron, and she was one of the great mathematicians of her age. And she was a woman we should celebrate. And she was a colleague, as you say, of Charles Babbage. And they had got their difference engine, and they wanted to steal the idea of a Frenchman who'd come up with the idea. It's a software idea. It was for automating something. As a little boy, he used to sit on a particular type of machine and watch it working and thinking, I could make this better. And he invented a punched card system for it. And he has... its name is...
It's not those pianos that
No,
play themselves.
pianolas use the same system, but this is before that. It's much more useful because it made something everybody in the world wanted to buy, which is clothes and textiles.
Oh, is it for, like, a pattern on
a loom.
cloth?
A loom. Right. It's a loom, and it's a particular kind of loom. Jacquard is the name. Joseph Marie Jacquard. And he was an extraordinary man, born in 1752. And these looms were used right up until our lifetimes. There you are.
Look at that.
That's what he invented. Now, you look at those punch cards, you think, now, what can that do? Babbage correctly saw this couldn't just make a loom and a tapestry and a picture, but it could also possibly do calculations and other such things that mathematicians were interested in. And so we have a portrait of Jacquard himself, which is done in woven silk using a Jacquard loom. That is done by punched cards.
Isn't that astonishing? The depth, the tone. Look at the knees there, the way the cloth is. I mean,
Looks almost like a photograph.
It almost looks like a photograph.
You think you'd be happier, wouldn't you?
Well, that's true. Smiling in photographs is a very recent thing.
Oh, really?
It was never considered normal. It was considered weird to smile. But the question was, why did he drive people to violence?
Oh, because was it like Luddites? Did they come and smash his machinery?
They did, because it took so much work away from
the
them.
shoe throwers, the saboteurs.
And what's the French for a wooden shoe?
A sabot.
A sabot is a clog, and they would throw their clogs into the looms to break them up. And a sabot was known as sabotage, and that's where we get our word sabotage. They would sabotage his machines. And actually, Luddites in Britain were nothing like as violent as the saboteurs of France in Lyon and places like that.
Different footwear, I suppose.
Different footwear.
Do more with a clog, can't you, than a conventional shoe?
We had an outbreak of it in my parish.
Did you?
Yeah, I'm afraid so. It's a shoe area, so when the automation of the shoe trade came in, there was a bit of smashing up of machines.
That's a nightmare, though, because if the people are destroying the machines with shoes, if the machine's still going, they're just making ammunition. For their own destruction.
I don't think they use shoes.
That's so true.
Yeah. Just as they come out, chuck them back at the machine.
You don't have to use shoes to make a machine break. It just the French wore wooden clogs and those sabots. But it is fascinating, isn't it, to think...
Where would we be without trees?
Well, so true. Who fancies a shootout with a real-life Vortex Cannon? I've given you one each next. You've got a box. See that box there? It's simply a box, all right? Now, the hole is where the vortex emerges. So if you lean it so that the hole is pointing at the target, all right, and basically what you've got to do is smack the side of the box, all right? After a 3, 2, 1, smack! Very good. There you are. Now... What are you doing? But what we can... Yes? What we can do before you destroy the box... Before you destroy the box, you can do something even more exciting, and that is fill it with smoke. And it will demonstrate what, in fact, was happening with the air. You should all have smoke machines. That's it. Fill it with smoke, fill it with smoke, fill it with smoke, and now, look! Look at that! Just a gentle tap. That is a vortex, there's beautiful smoke rings, and a lovely one there. And I've got an enormous cannon here. I'm going to fill mine with... I'll see if I can get mine across the...
You're going to chase each other.
Across the room here. Here we go. I've got the wrong way around. We'll let the smoke drift a little. We don't like a big dustbin. It's simply pressure of air creating this wonderful vortex.
No, it's not. It's magic.
Nice work. Basically, ladies and gentlemen, that's it. Hours of fun can be had playing with your own homemade vortex. Dubious theory about Alice in Wonderland for you, if you're quite interested.
A dubious theory from Stephen Fry.
Yes. Alice in Wonderland isn't a wildly imaginative children's fantasy after all. It's a bitter, satirical attack on Victorian mathematics. Dubious or not, visit aliceschmalice.co.uk to review the evidence and decide for yourself.
A dubious theory from Stephen Fry.
I like that one. I like that one a lot.
It's an interesting theory, and there's a book written about it. The fact is, as you know, Alice in Wonderland was written by...
Lewis Carroll.
Who was, in real life...
A dog.
Charles Dodge.
A dog? so right. The last letter was wrong.
It was a don.
A don.
A don.
A don. That's what you meant. In other words, he was a fellow of an...
Autocorrect, autocorrect, damn you, autocorrect.
He was a mathematician at Oxford. And he was a very conservative, classical mathematician who believed in Euclidean geometry and things like that. And there was a new world coming into maths that would resolve in David Hilbert's famous questions and the Poincaré conjecture and Riemann's hypothesis and all the things that Alan Turing and later mathematicians
The invention of
devoted
number
themselves.
9, of course.
The invention
very,
of number...
very controversial. I've never taken to it myself.
Squeezed it in between 7 and 10 and 8 and 10, in fact.
8 came even later.
8 came later, that's right.
They needed it for the war.
That's right. So weird. They did it for bingo, I think. No, but the fact is, he didn't like the way that maths was becoming so extraordinarily abstract and pure and less to do with either symbolic logic, which was his particular subject, or, as I say, the beauty of plain geometry, which he loved. And so this particular author, Melanie Bailey, argues that the scenes, particularly the Mad Hatter's Tea Party, the encounter with the hooker smoking caterpillar, and the meeting with the Duchess whose baby turns into a pig, all that sort of absolute nonsense, he thought typified modern mathematics. And most of all, he added in the later story, the Cheshire Cat, who disappears leaving only a grin. It's a humorous way of making a serious point about the futility of abstraction. How can the cat leave a grin behind? The cat was brilliantly played in the Tim Burton film by who did the voice of the cat? It was superb. Oh, God.
Hugh Laurie.
Hugh Laurie, that's it. That's it. I knew it was someone good. Minus 2,000 points. Anyway, Melanie Bailey, the author of this book, reminds us that his other works are painfully dull and moralistic or very technical works. In fact, Queen Victoria read Alice and loved it so much and said, I do hope, Dr. Dodgson, that you will dedicate your next book to me. So he wrote a book called something like Problems in Symbolic Logic. to her Majesty Queen Victoria, who must have read it and thought, what the fuck is this?
Queen Victoria bumper book of boring math. Happy Christmas, Your
Anyway, she says, this lady, Melanie Bailey, that Dodgson was most witty when he was poking fun at something, and only then when the subject matter truly got him riled. Whereas we think of him as just an absurdist, a kind of surrealist, as a nonsense, a master of nonsense. Anyway, it's nice to have dubious theories on our J series, and that's one of them.
What were chainsaws originally invented for?
Proctology.
Wow. That's scary.
Yeah, that's a...
Slicing an arse in half.
Yeah.
Well, you know, you were in the right area, I have to say.
What?
I mean,
Really?
well,
Circumcision.
What I mean is, you began straight away with medicine. You didn't say trees or, you know, cutting down
cutting off legs.
buildings.
Bones and
bones is the right answer. Yes, in particular, it was a rather unpleasant procedure.
Oh, don't. It'll be a boy thing against a girl thing. It
well,
will
not
be.
against, you know.
Well,
it's doctors trying to help.
Oh, I know what it is. I know what it is. It'll be a boy thinking a woman's taking far too long over labour, going, oh, I can't stand all that panting. I know, we'll get a chainsaw, just cut that baby out. That's what it is.
But you know, you're absolutely right. It was in 1783.
That's no excuse.
It was two Scots doctors called John Aitken and James Jaffrey, and it was called a symphysiotomy, and it was a procedure to widen the pelvis if the baby's head was too large to pass through.
Oh, can you hear the high tone of all those sighs?
About this picture.
It's a bit eye-watering.
It's a ladies' ward, so of course there is some baking going on.
Yes.
On the cake display cakes.
And I tell you what...
buns in the oven, Stephen. You see what I did there?
Buns in the oven.
They didn't really, darling.
I'm afraid they did. When I say chainsaw, it was literally a chain. It was like a watch chain, in fact.
Ah, right.
It was like an up and down.
lumberjack giving it... It's a boy!
They hadn't yet invented the internal combustion engine.
And caesarean sections.
Caesarean sections have replaced the same idea. That
Phew.
Yes, quite, exactly.
Would it
It's a
be
bit of a
easier to
relief.
do the caesarean section, I think. Sawing the pelvic bone in half is not as easy as maybe just a small incision. And
But is there
I
not
know,
like-
you'd have thought they would have
pop
made
it out the sunroof.
But this was before antiseptic. It was before antiseptic surgery, and of course it was before any kind of anaesthetic.
They're not a meeting. You know what I mean? There's not a meeting where someone goes, I've got it. And they go, what? They go, chainsaw, innit?
Well, they looked at a watch chain and they said, you know, if we could sort of ease away the bone like that, rather than using a saw. I know, everyone's wincing.
Have we got another question that isn't about that?
Would it heal? Presumably not very well.
Well, they then went on to use the same thing. For example, if someone had a bit of diseased bone, they would do the same thing. They would sort of tick it in, then they'd go up and down like that, and then they'd do it lower down, and the two bits would fuse together and have a stiff arm. But it would get rid of the diseased bone. It was called an osteotome. It eventually became like a chainsaw. You can see one here. That is more like a chainsaw.
You don't
Pretty
want
unpleasant.
That. You don't want that coming at you.
You really don't. You really, really don't.
I remember my wife had a baby, I remember it well. And, yeah, it was a grand day. It was a grand day. But when she had a baby, and there's a point where you go in to see the fella who's going to sort it out on the day. That's him, yeah. He's got an official title. And you go in to see him, and as the husband, he says, right, you sit there on a chair, and then he pulls the curtain across. Yes. While him and your wife are in this thing, while he has a little dabble or whatever he's doing.
It's a bit intimate, isn't it?
It's a bit like you go, I've seen it, mate. Do you know what I mean? There's nothing... This is why we're here.
Well, you don't look when that happens, though, do you, at the moment of conception? Do you actually have a look? You're looking into... Surely. Sorry.
Stephen doesn't need to know, Jason. He doesn't need to know.
You're gazing lovingly into her eyes.
Gazing lovingly at the Born Identity, which is still on the television. As you reach for your drink.
What do you think, darling, that he's got a periscope at the moment?
I'm sorry.
I don't know why you and I are having this conversation.
After the invention of the internal combustion engine, where we were getting Jeremy to his home territory now, eventually by 1920 they were small enough to be able to have a hand-powered
cut down trees.
And then they cut down trees, yes. Exactly. Well, anyway, there you are. Chainsaws were originally invented for midwives. What kind of person lived here? Yes, already the tragic tones.
Initially, you think a very angry person that's quite small.
Yes.
Small-minded or just small?
It did genuinely exist, this Daily Mail model village. This was after the First World War, when housing was in short supply and we were trying to build a land fit for heroes.
And it was made entirely of Daily Mail papier-mâché, was it? Copies of the Daily Mail.
Well, the Daily Mail was never shy about trying to draw attention to itself with publicity stunts of all kinds, athletic stunts, firsts in aviation and so on. It was the Daily Mail that sponsored Amy Johnson to fly to Australia, for example, and they decided that they would lead the world, and they thought they would contribute to a model village.
Well, I can see that, like, if they go, let's have an air race, let's try and cross the Atlantic, and then they're all quite... like that. And, but then model village,
but then...
it's like... You know, it's the sort of thing where, like, you know, Richard Branson said, right, I'm going to send a rocket to the moon and I'm going to take people. And they go, wow, Branson's amazing, we're going to fly.
And when we get there, I'm going to build a model village.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose you have to go back to after 1919, all those people wiped out by Spanish flu. Before that, all those people wiped out by the First World War. And the Daily Mail thought we needed a new, modern Britain with new, modern cities. And so they devised this village, which they thought were going to be absolutely marvellous. But the plans were a little over-ambitious, and they were overtaken by the...
Guardian Village.
The company who owned the land around and who named this new town Welwyn Garden City.
Oh.
Yeah. But there it was, the Daily Mail model village of Welwyn Garden City, 1922.
It's a good job it wasn't the Sunday Sport model village, because then it would be the Welwyn Garden City.
Welwyn!
Check out the fronts of those houses. It's double fronted. Oh, look at the garage
And there's
doors
always
on.
the back alley, too. Oh, dear.
Well, that was a rubbish model village. It's clearly full size.
Yeah, don't forget model has two meanings. There's model in the sense of it's a paragon, it's a model of its kind. And that's what they meant by it.
It's got three
Not
meanings,
like
hasn't
it's a
it?
teeny
Because
weeny.
model village, everyone just walks around.
There's also...
Yeah.
The high street is called the catwalk. Yeah.
Everyone's just in their pants.
That's true.
I have to say, I weep when I think of my childhood and the amount of time we spent around a model village.
Oh, Beaconscott.
And what kids have today.
Yeah.
They've got so much, and my mum and dad would go, oh, look at that, it's Big Ben, but this big, and we'd go, wow.
Yeah, but you see, your dad didn't drink. My dad would go to a model village, drink and go, I'm King Kong! And just start smashing stuff. Oh, how we'd laugh. You know why I can't go to model villages? Because when you walk round, because of the painted faces, they all look like people who've been, like, trapped by witchcraft. And they're
Yes,
going,
they do.
Help! Get me out of here! I'm not really queuing for a newspaper. But when I come home, shrouded in guilt and drink. I don't know enough about the dark arts to make them all fully sized again.
If only you could say, what is Australia's deadliest creature, in fact?
Oh,
Yeah.
Rupert Murdoch.
Good answer. After Rupert Murdoch.
So sorry about
After
the
Rupert
fact he
Murdoch.
came here.
Yeah,
Sorry.
excluding a member of the human race, which I'm not sure whether that does or not, but anyway...
Is it the spiders, the funnel web, the red
It's going to be
Yep.
something on the road, isn't it?
It's the box jellyfish.
No, it's not. That is a nasty creature. Is it people?
Is it rabbits? Is it rabbits running in front of utes or some sort of... it's gotta
You're
be
certainly
something-
right that most of the deaths
gonna be
caused by
a-
animals in Australia are caused on the road, but the animal that is most responsible...
Crocodile?
Is it man? The most deadly of all
Snake. Shark.
No.
Can you say that? I'm not born there.
It's not about a cat, though. In the year under the sample year, we're taking one human being in Australia was killed by a cat that year. But 128...
A cunning plan executed skillfully and quietly. Is it?
It's the road. The road's involved.
Often the road.
Are the people in the car at the time?
Sometimes, yes, but,
Is it the...
but sometimes they're on the animal involved.
They're on the
Horses?
That's a horse, yes. A horse. More people are killed by horses than... It's a very angry horse there.
That one needs a dental hygiene appointment ASAP.
Seriously does. Yeah, because they fall off and break their neck, or indeed they cause car crashes and so on. And horses kill 3 times more than the ones you've mentioned.
When we lived in Australia, my wife bought a horse, and she's desperate to try and get me to ride, right? So she said, I bought this horse, it's really docile, you'll be fine.
They never are.
So I got... Well, no, there was actually... The problem was it was too docile. What happened was it ended up being studied by Melbourne University because it was one of the few horses that was... medically got narcolepsy. So I swear to God, it's one of the rare cases of a narcoleptic horse. So she buys this horse, and she said she couldn't work out why every time when she was grooming it, it would get heavier. Like that. And so she couldn't groom it because it would fall on her. So she says to me, "It's fine. The horse is narcoleptic. Get on it." And so I got on it in full motorbike gear because I wasn't taking any chances. I sat on this horse and it started to just... And you know, normally you kick a horse to make it go. This one, he kicked it and it would go, what? Hey, like that, to make it up. And sometimes it would fall asleep against the electric fence. So it would go like that. Hey, hey! It's like Jack Douglas from the Carry On.
Oh, well, that's my
Narcoleptic
kind of horse, frankly.
Yeah.
But it is the horse, anyway, that turns out.
What are they doing? I thought it would be 10 times as exciting as a swing boat at the fair, but it wasn't. There was no sensation, just a lot of noise and wind. My hair was blown into a tangled mess, which couldn't be combed out for days.
The inventor of the hairdryer.
Is it Brian May on the latest Thorpe Park ride?
Well, we're with a transport experience, and this person was famous for their achievement in it, but the first time they tried it, as they say, they thought they found it horrible, noisy,
Amy
windy...
Johnson?
Amy Johnson is the right answer. Very good. There she is. It's the J. And what was her great feat?
She...
Flew the Atlantic.
Yeah.
No, that was
Flew
all
across America.
cock and brown. No, she flew from...
Flew to the moon.
Oh, she flew from Britain to Australia.
To Australia?
Yeah, it's a heck of a flight.
Did she ever come back?
Yes, she certainly did. And when she came back, she landed at what was then the sort of London airport, which was Croydon Airport, and there were 200,000 people there to meet her.
You're kidding.
No, it was a sensation of the age.
Was there a car boot sale going on as well?
She had a 12-mile parade through London.
So she was describing when she first got into an aeroplane and first flew...
She hated it, absolutely hated it. But she stuck with it and became, obviously, incredibly good. Remember who wrote the first dictionary in English?
Oh, yes. Johnson.
Samuel Johnson.
Samuel Johnson. Oh, it wasn't Samuel Johnson. I led you down the garden path.
Baldrick.
Banked you, Baldrick. B. Probably a B, yes.
Very good. We're going to have to write the whole dictionary tonight.
Dr. Johnson's dictionary, which was written in the earlier part of the 18th century, was preceded by... Well, there was...
Famously, the first
there were
dictionary.
Lots, weren't
There was a Richard Mulcaster in the 16th century who came up with the name football, in fact, and indeed invented refereeing and the idea of football teams. But he wrote Elementary in 1582. He was the first to gather all the words which we use in our English tongue out of all professions, as well learned as not, into one dictionary. But he didn't give definitions. He just listed all the words that he thought they existed. But in Robert Corddry's Table Alphabetical of 1604, not only listed words, but gave definitions, so it was perhaps the first true dictionary in the sense that we know it. It listed around 3,000 hard words, as he called them, defining each one. So then Johnson's dictionary had how many entries? Around the time there were about 250,000 or 300,000 words. How many did he list?
42.
So, you were so close, 42,000. Was it? That was really close. 42,773. But we've got some Johnson words that have gone out of use. Maybe you can mention what they mean. Tongue pad.
Mouth friend.
Mouth friend. Don't we all need a mouth friend?
Sometimes we certainly do need a tongue pad and a mouth.
Sometimes I like a frigorific. I hear you, girl.
Frigorific.
Yeah. We've all been frigorific in our time. A double latte is, I
That's
think
a
it's
coffee.
single shot, isn't
You
it?
can get those in...
Just after it's depusulate.
Oh, that's what you do before a big date, isn't it? Yeah.
You're meeting a mouth friend.
Yes.
You get a bit tongue pad. Slip in the old shapesmith.
Is a shapesmith just a rubbish blacksmith?
No, a shapesmith is basically what we...
I've done a thing. You've been to the shapesmith, yeah. Sort of looks like a doorknob.
Yeah, it's not a horse shoe, but it's sort of horse jewellery.
Like a horse clog.
Nipple clamp. They found in Camden Market and sold all that crap.
No, a shapesmith is actually what we would call a personal trainer. It's someone who gets you into shape and improves the shape of your body. It's
Time
a
for that word to come back.
Shapesmith, exactly.
I'm going to see my shapesmith.
My shapesmith. A tongue pad.
I hate that.
A tongue pad is just a great talker who just gives someone who just natters all the time. A mouth friend is... No, someone who is a friend to your face but is duplicitous behind your back.
Oh, God, I know a few of those.
Yeah, a few mouth friends. Pretends to be your friend. To depusulate is to deflower, to bereave of virginity.
It's not a bereave.
To pluck the
Let's not see it as that. Frigorific sounds like something Del Boy might say, but what is frig?
It actually, I suppose we would... It's probably rather badly spelled. We should pronounce it, yes, cold. Should pronounce it frigorific, probably. It just means causing cold. Something it's frigorific. Causes cold. So, some of his definitions were just a little bit lazy. Sock. Something put between the foot and the shoe.
He must have thought, though, because, you know, previously the one before you say had been just of hard words. He must have just thought, look, everyone knows what a sock is.
If you can read, you'll know what a sock is.
Yeah, if you've got this book and you don't know what a sock is, then I can't help you.
Exactly. Oates was a famous one.
Oh, yes, he said horrible things about the Scots in his one on Oates, didn't
He did. He said a grain which in England is generally given to horses, but in Scotland supports the people. He describes the worm to deprive a dog of something, nobody knows what, under his tongue, which is said to prevent him, nobody knows why, from running mad. It's just a very strange...
Wasn't a scientist, then?
No, I think probably not. It was one of our greatest... Napoleon say to Josephine on his way back from a journey.
Ah, I sense a trap. The only thing I know about Napoleon to Josephine was he said...
Yeah?
What was it, Rob? What was it?
Phil.
How? I'm going to do it. I'm coming back, don't wash.
Oh! That is one of the two things that people know that Napoleon said. Yep, I shall be home soon, don't wash, because he liked them dirty. There is no evidence for that whatsoever. The earliest place this quotation can be sourced is 1981.
I only know the other one.
The other one, which might be... what?
It's the one... Rob, what's it?
Yeah, you know it.
Cal, what? It's really...
I'm still stuck on the no
Pas ce
washing.
soir, Josephine.
Oh.
And I got away with it.
Josephine, on the right there, she's got the same black eyes that all the people in my pictures have got on my computer when I try and get rid of the red eye.
Yes, that's true.
They end up with massive black dots and they look like some sort of zombie film.
Anyway, I'm sorry you fell into our trap, but you managed to avoid the trap of Not Tonight, Josephine, which is the other thing he was supposed to have said.
That's the one I know.
That appears in a play, W.G. Wells' play called The Royal Divorce, which didn't come out until 1891, some 70 years after the death of the Emperor.
An army marches on its stomach.
Yes, well, indeed, yes.
Did he say that?
Unlikely to have said that to Josephine, but he might have done. I think he made it more as a sort of, you know, a point about logistics.
Maybe he discussed all sorts of battle stuff.
He might have done. He said, I prefer a lucky general to a skilled one, he said as well. So we don't really know anything particular that Josephine and Napoleon might have said to each other. Do you know the capital of Alaska?
Yes, you just said it.
Exactly, thank you. Very good. Juneau is the capital of Alaska. Juneau. Juneau. But there's something unique about it.
It rains all the bloody time, I know that.
Well, it's not accessible by road. You can only get there by air or water. There is no road to Juneau.
Sarah Palin can get there by walking on the water.
And can you tell me the biggest joke ever to come out of Alaska?
Sarah Palin.
We're not forfeiting you that. It was so obvious.
Oh,
we weren't even going to forfeit it.
If I had forfeited, I would have refudiated.
We would have refudiated. Anyway, the point is, there is actually a famous practical joke, an April Fool's joke that came out of Alaska. It took a lot of preparation and it was rather extraordinary. We'll show you a photograph that might give you a hint. I mean, it's not really going to be easy, but what's in the background there?
This is a volcano-based practical
joke,
and it's one that I read about it, and it very much impressed me because if you do a practical joke, which is, you know, cling film over the toilet, something simple.
Yeah.
The person who did this practical joke... It's a good one. It doesn't work for women necessarily because we tend to notice when we sit down that there's some... But for men, I tell you, it's a hoot. There was a volcano... and a gentleman, I can't remember his name, I apologise, decided to try and make it seem as if it was erupting, so took loads of tyres and set fire to it, and then everyone came out of their houses and went, the volcano's erupting. Because it was so good.
Right. He waited 3 years till there was a clear April the 1st. He took kerosene and smoke bombs and tyres, and he dropped them down the crater and set fire to it. But in 50-foot letters, he did say, April Fool, and he warned the federal authority. He called them up, but he forgot to call the Coast Guard, who did panic a bit. But it was, fortunately, all taken in the right spirit. And his name is Porky Bicar.
Porky?
Porky. That was his nickname. Porky. He was American, so he was called Porky. Porky Bicar. And that is, aside from Sarah Palin, the greatest joke ever to come out of Alaska.
It is a good one.
I have to say, I am very...
Take you back now to your childhood and innocence. You remember all those white Christmases? No.
OK. I remember one.
Yeah.
1971.
1970. The January was 71.
There you go.
Christmas
Bang.
itself, 1970. Had you said yes, I would buzz you, because you don't remember any, because you're from the southeast. You might remember a few more, because South Shields has had more. We've actually tried to work out how many white Christmases you've had. We think you might have had them when you were 1, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 9.
Wow.
Which is actually quite a lot.
That is quite a lot.
Because in the whole of the 20th century, if you lived in London or the southeast, there were only 4 white Christmases. I know. It is extraordinary. And they were in 1927, 1938, 1970 and 1981. As we know, in the 21st century, we've had a few. But what's important about this is that in the early part of the 19th century, around about 1812 to 1820, there were 8 in a row.
Oh.
Now, why was that important to our culture?
Is that when the song was written?
No.
No.
A certain child was born in 1812. We were
Jesus.
Norman, you really do need a little bit of a religious education. This was an author, a writer, who created the idea.
Charles Dickens.
Okay,
Charles Dickens. For the first 8 years of his life, it always snowed on Christmas Day. And so whenever he mentions Christmas, not just in A Christmas Carol, but in several other novels, it's always snowing. And this helped the myth in British culture of a snowy Christmas. He also lived at a time known as the Little Ice Age. You know this, I'm sure you've seen paintings of fairs on the River Thames.
Yeah.
There were times where the River Thames froze so solidly they would have fairs, not just fairs, they'd have bonfires on the ice.
Those crazy cockneys.
Yes. they could guarantee...
Light a fire up.
Yeah.
It's freezing.
Let's light a fire on the river on the ice. What could possibly go wrong?
But the odd thing is, nothing did go wrong, because it was so thick, the ice. The last Frost Fair, as they were called, was in 1813-14 on the frozen River Thames. Wow. But anyway, this century we've had more white Christmases, as we know, but only 4 in the entire 20th century, and only 2 in our lifetimes.
Yeah.
More in Scotland. I'm really being very metrocentric here, and I apologise for that.
Imagine that Jamie Oliver was to be crowned the next King of England. It's sort of not inconceivable in the strange world in which we live.
President Oliver.
What number, James, would he be? What would be his regnal number, as the official?
Oh, no. Well, it would be different in England from Scotland.
No, there's just one UK, so it would be the same in both. But what would it be?
I'm desperate to say James III. Yes!
No, because what happened was when Elizabeth was crowned 60 years ago, she was, of course, called Queen Elizabeth II. But in Scotland, there was a bit of an outcry because she wasn't the second Queen Elizabeth in Scotland, she was the first. They had Mary, Queen of Scots, when Elizabeth I was on the throne. So a few early E2R pillar boxes were trashed in Scotland, and there was a big fuss. And Winston Churchill, who was Prime Minister in 1953, he sort of decided that
350 years
I
later.
know, people, there's long memories on these things. So Churchill essentially laid down a convention whereby UK monarchs would be numbered uniformly according to either an English or Scottish reckoning, whichever was higher. So James I of England was James the Sixth of Scotland. So James II was James VII. So if there were another James, he would be called James VIII. That would be the procedure.
I worry when you say things like this that you're the only person who knows. If Jamie Oliver did become king and you weren't around to tell them, they might get it wrong. What are you going to... You need to leave these things in a notebook.
You need to get some tablets for you to...
Princess Anne looks a lot like my daughter in that picture, quite disturbingly.
Gosh! She's very young there, isn't she?
I feel sorry for all the other finalists to be queen.
The Greeks used it for earache. Columbus took 80 tons of it to America, and Henry VIII made it compulsory. What am I talking about?
Oh, hang on a second. What's the theme of the show? It's joints?
Yes.
I'm going to guess marijuana.
Ooh, marijuana is the right answer. Cannabis, yes.
So he took 80 tons to America?
Yes.
You're saying that he's
Columbus
a trafficker? Saying Columbus is a drug trafficker?
He must have had a very big sphincter.
It was pretty enormous.
Pretty nervous when you got a customs, I would imagine.
Well, as you probably know, Cannabis plant is also used for the creation of hemp and ropes. He had tons of it just on his ship alone, of rope made from hemp. And also, it was made under King James, it was made compulsory for the colonials to grow it and to use it. They mostly wore hemp clothing. And hemp was used as an oil, as a lubricant, and all kinds of things, as you can buy hemp oil now. But by the middle of the 19th century, cannabis was recommended by the US Pharmacopoeia for the following disorders: neuralgia, tetanus, typhus, cholera, rabies, dysentery, alcoholism, anthrax, leprosy, incontinence, snakebite, gout, tonsillitis, and insanity.
So that seemed to be a list of pretty much everything, though. I would imagine if you went into the chemist, it sounds like they only had one thing. What have you got? Well, I'll have a think.
Well, there's a Greek word for that, panacea, a cure-all, literally. And so they did more or less think it was a panacea, as they did so many drugs, as they did heroin when that came out, and cocaine.
Well, in defence of both of those, it will take the edge off.
But there are still people who believe it. People are very keen for the legalisation of medicinal marijuana.
It seems weird that we haven't got medicinal marijuana, but we've got medicinal heroin.
Yes, isn't it?
That's kind of an odd quirk, isn't it?
I suppose so, except that, of course, there is no real painkiller available except the one that we get from the poppy, which includes morphine and heroin. We just can't make a drug that does the same thing.
Mummy's hugs.
Mummy's hugs and kisses. Oh, sweetheart.
Mummy's hugs.
That's so
and
lovely.
Then if they don't work, heroin.
Yeah. I think you've got it spot on the money, Jack. Absolutely. What was Jingle Bells written to celebrate?
The end of a war.
No, it wasn't that.
End of a famine.
No.
The beginning of a famine. The arrival of the first member of the Ku Klux Klan in Iceland.
It does look a bit like that, doesn't it?
Christmas.
No, not Christmas.
One of these days there'll be a double bluff.
There will be. We do have double bluffs concealed within. It was written by a man whose nephew went on to become the richest man in America, I believe.
Rockefeller.
No, J. Pierpont Morgan, the great banker. But his uncle lived in Massachusetts, and in 1857 he wrote a song, and it was to celebrate a winter festival that takes place in America, not
Thanksgiving?
Christmas. Thanksgiving, exactly. Oh. And he wrote the song, and its real name was not Jingle Bells, but...
Turkey Jingle Balls.
No, it's a line from the song.
Jungle Bells.
It's a line from the song.
Jingle all the way.
One Horse Open Sleigh was the name of the song. It's called One Horse Open Sleigh. And he played it on... Yes, that's the one. And that's right. Yeah, right. Your mother will be coming to visit tomorrow. So I'm going to sit you in front.
Jingle bells. Batman smell.
Yeah. What's unusual about Bailey's pocket mouse?
Wait a minute.
Obviously,
That's it.
Bailey's pocket mouse doesn't look like that.
No.
If you take away the handsome features, that's it, Bailey's pocket mouse.
Is it some sort of desert mouse that doesn't drink or something?
Well, you're almost right. You're very close.
Oh, it does drink, but only Bailey's.
Yeah. That's right.
It shins up the bottle like that, and it brings its own miniature parasol.
There is a particular oil-bearing plant in Mexico.
Jojoba.
Yes! And it was thought for many years that the Bailey's mouse was the only one that could tolerate eating it, because it is basically disgusting to all other animals.
So they can survive on shampoo?
Well, that's the point, yeah. It has then become a useful oil. Since whaling stopped, it has some of the same properties as whale oil.
A lot easier to apprehend.
Yeah, than a whale. Exactly. You just get hold of a jojoba plant and it gives off this oil. But very few animals eat it, and very few animals are tolerant of it, because it's a disgusting oil.
Well, not if you're a Bailey's mouse, it's not.
Exactly. And it was thought to be the only animal that could eat it. And in fact, 3 others have since been discovered that are also capable of surviving.
Pete Burns.
Jojoba. Pete Burns is one. Sean Ryder is another.
And Bez, yeah. Your 3 go-to jojoba guys.
As an oil, it's a laxative, and so some people use it as a frying oil, so that when you fry things in it, it just runs through you. So it's just a good way of keeping on the diet. But mostly jojoba is used for
Shampoo.
Your skin.
Your skin, shampoo, cosmetics.
Yes.
Who was it who made jojoba famous?
Billy Connolly.
Billy Connolly, exactly, did a famous routine about jojoba. What's that? What the fuck's that? Jojoba? Jojoba? He has a way of repeating words, Billy Connolly, that I remember many years ago, when for the first time he was elected president of Israel, and I got this phone call.
Billy Connolly, what?
No.
Hey, I tell you what. Israel, it's a lovely
phrased this
place.
the wrong way, but this particular person had been, and the phone rang, and it was Billy Connolly. He didn't introduce himself. He just went, Benjamin Netanyahu. And I said, what? He said, Benjamin Netanyahu. And I said, sorry, who is this? He went, Benjamin Netanyahu? What's that about? For fuck's sake, Benjamin Netanyahu? And then he put the phone down. I thought, it was Billy Connolly riffing on the name Benjamin Netanyahu. Yeah, and he would have done the same with jojoba. Jojoba.
The month before November, that was the joke, wasn't
That, exactly.
Sometimes Paul O'Grady phones me up and just goes, oh, then hangs up.
What's that? Get that? No. Stop it. No, don't.
Doesn't say no, don't.
Doesn't it?
No, that's Frankie Howard.
Oh, damn. So easily confused.
Which reality TV format was invented by Charlemagne's father? There's a picture of Charlemagne.
Big Brother?
It's not as well as Big Brother.
All
I will
right.
give you a clue.
Celebrity Big Brother? On Channel 5. I'm a king, get me out of here.
That'll cover it. I can tell you it was presented by Dale Winton.
Supermarket Sweep?
No,
Total Wipeout? What else has he done?
Oh, yeah, you're pretty good. Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, I know the workings
Big
of...
fan. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're good on Dale.
Yeah.
You probably don't know who Dale Winton is, do you?
Chap or lady?
Audience, behave. He's a very charming gentleman, Mr. Winton. Well turned out, crisply well turned out gentleman. Very nice man.
Who was his father then?
Well, Charlemagne's father is a good question. Unlikely to have heard of him. I'd be very impressed if you have heard of him. He was Count Pepin the Short, unfortunately. But if you go back to... This is even pre-medieval. This is Dark Ages. If you go back to that time, justice was meted out in all kinds of odd ways. And one of the odd ways, it was a system of testing, which was called an ordeal. An
ordeal.
Ordeal. There were various kinds of ordeal.
So it's ordeal or no ordeal?
Oh, no. If only with Noel Edmonds we were talking about, then that would do it.
Is he a lady or a man?
Is Noel Edmonds... Well, ordeals. This particular ordeal involved... two people had a quarrel, and they both had to make the shape of a cross, see? And stay there. I don't know what that's about.
Someone said he's got a small penis.
Are you a real doctor?
It was called Judicium Crucis, the justice of the cross in Latin. And basically, it's a bit like the school punishments where they make you do that, if you ever did that. The one who just dropped his hands first was wrong. And it happened to the Archbishop of Paris with the abbot of Saint Denis. Only they would use champions to do it for them. So they would say, you on my behalf, stand for as long as you can in the cross. And in this case, the Archbishop of Paris won.
It's a pity you have to nominate someone, because if you didn't, you could just pick on old people, couldn't you, in those days, did you know?
You could have ordeals by tickling. They genuinely had all kinds of ordeals. Ordeals by water, ordeals by fire, and so on. But there is a car game.
Is it that one where you've got to keep your hand on the car? Yeah, and then the last one wins it.
You see?
Yeah.
You do know it.
Yes.
Dale Winton presented, I think on Channel 5, an endurance game show based on a Japanese original called Touch the Truck. That's Dale there.
I'd love to watch that.
That's
Just
him.
loads of people touching a car and then that's it.
Yeah.
For an hour.
For an hour? 81 hours. It's
Well, I'd
because
Sky Plus it and fast forward through it.
It's basically the last one to give up on touching the truck.
But it doesn't do anything, you just stand there.
No, you have to
with
touch
your
it.
hand.
Yeah, it's going 80 mile an hour. That's a game show.
You were allowed you were allowed a 10-minute break every 2 hours.
and 15 minutes every 6 hours.
This is made up, isn't it? No one would...
If you fell asleep, you were disqualified, so you had to stay awake. You couldn't just lie on the car with your hand on it, so you had to be consciously touching it. And the idea was the last person left touching it won it. And the winner, you probably want to know all about him, I expect, he won the truck, obviously, and he sold it in order to raise funds to stand as a political...
arm surgery.
No. To stand as a political candidate. He stood for Kingston and Surbiton at the 2001 general election. There was a turnout of 49,093 people, and he secured 54 votes.
Wow. We do it in New Zealand. It's a radio show contest. It quite often happens. Yeah, we're probably the last country still doing it. It's the only way you can get your cars back in New Zealand.
Doing it on radio sounds even weirder to me, I have to say.
They're still touching it? They're still touching it?
Do you have to drop
Still touching it?
No, they interview the people who are touching the car. So right. I've got John here. How's it going? Ah, good. I'm still touching it. You know. How many hours now? 7.
Anyway, that's it. That's basically a game show inspired by a Dark Ages... endurance test, yeah. Extraordinary. Describe the travel arrangements of the Japanese flying snail.
Where is it going?
It probably won't travel more than 11 miles, but very fast.
Does it drop?
Yes,
Is it a fall?
Yeah, but how would it get up?
They haven't got wings, have they, you see?
No, they haven't. They so haven't got wings. But we haven't got wings and we fly. How do we do it?
No, in an aeroplane.
We get in an aeroplane. We get in some...
Oh, I got the answer
We get
to
in a
this.
conveyance that flies.
They hop on a bird or a creature with wings.
Yes.
A bird.
Yeah.
They
Could have been a bat.
Could have been a bat.
Yeah.
Could have been a bat or a bird.
Yeah, or
a strange hybrid of bird bat. They hop onto a creature with the ability to fly.
But 11 miles, that's very, very high.
It's not the height, it's not the altitude, never mind. They travel...
I've still got it in my head that they're dropping 11 miles.
No. It's not a voluntary act. They get eaten by birds. There are 2 types of birds. On the little island of Hahajima. Hahajima, it's one of the Agasawara Islands, south of Japan, as you can see. And there is the Japanese white-eye and the brown-eyed bulbul, which are 2 types of bird. There they are. Yeah. And they eat this particular snail. Yeah. And about 15% of them survive the process and are excreted out alive. And so they're kind of spreading their genes further around, yeah.
Because that seems unlikely.
No, it's not. That would be a seriously weighed down...
That snail would eat that bird. I'd back the snail.
Is the bird on the left, is that a white ring round its eye, or is it just excreted a full-size snail?
Whoa! It can be up to between 30 minutes or 2 hours later that it passes through the bird system, as it were, and the bird can fly at about 11 miles per hour.
Does the snail go into his own shell, by which I don't mean get a little self-conscious? does he retreat into his shell
I should imagine he
to
would.
take shelter?
I should imagine he would.
But don't they pick them out of the shell anyway? Don't they get in the...
Like you do in a restaurant with a special fork.
They've got a special fork.
Which is called armour.
They've got a special fork.
I'm writing it down.
Armour.
An ice cream scoop called Vanessa.
Yes. So anyway...
What would you call one of those pizza cutters, the roly pizza cutter?
Clement.
No, fair enough. Dave.
Well, they describe the rules on a pirate ship. Rules? Yeah. What sort of rules would they have?
Obviously, they've got a captain.
Yes.
So he's in charge. So I imagine he gets most of the gold and whatever they find.
Well, oddly enough, now, they had 2 senior officers, the captain and the quartermaster. And the captain could be vetoed by the quartermaster on all matters except battle. Except rules of engagement when fighting. And they had strong laws. And the quartermaster was, he was about how much they divvied out, including he decided how much the captain got. The captain had no special quarters. He didn't have a, wonderful room such as you imagine in movies. So it's not exactly hierarchical. It's kind of a rule of 2, the quartermaster and the captain. Otherwise, it was more or less a democracy in a strange sort of way, but with strict rules. For example, in Captain Bartholomew Roberts' ship, the Fortune, there was no gambling. It was like a boarding school. No smuggling girls into the dorm. No playing music on a Sunday. And lights out at 8 o'clock sharp in the evening.
It's rubbish being a pirate.
I know. That's not quite what you imagine.
My dad, the captain. That's rubbish.
Where are you going to smuggle these girls from, anyway?
That's true.
You rescue one from the sea. No.
when it came to women aboard, the articles of Captain George Lowther, who was a famous pirate of his day, said, if at any time you meet with a prudent woman, that man that offers to meddle with her, without her consent, shall suffer present death. So meddling with a prudent woman without her consent got you death. So they really were very strict with each other.
So meddling was rape, really?
I think essentially we're talking about rape.
Lost its meaning by the time Scooby-Doo came on.
Exactly. Why you pesky kids haven't meddled?
Notorious gang rapists.
That's just terrible. I'm ashamed of you.
Why is the pirate voice similar to the farmer's voice? Why is there something? Arr! Get off my land!
There's one man responsible.
Right.
Do you know who it is?
It'll be a film actor.
Yes.
Oh, OK.
Treasure Island?
He played in a great performance of Treasure Island. And in fact, Tony Hancock, the great comedian, he first started out as an impersonator of this actor.
Lawton?
No, not quite as well known as Lawton. In his own day, he was very, very well known, but now less well known.
Anybody?
Someone we've mentioned on QI before.
Hang on a minute.
The chances of Alan remembering it are...
Someone in the front row saying, you've done this! This was on Dave on Tuesday. New facts. New facts.
Yeah, well, it was Robert Newton, anyway.
Robert Newton.
Thank you, yes.
Robert Newton.
Robert Newton is the right answer, but it doesn't count because we've had it before. There we are.
Prowse almost did that, didn't he, to Darth Vader? He has a West Country accent, didn't he?
Yes,
and he famously thought that he was going to be used, didn't he?
Yes.
With his West Country accent, he got redone.
I am your father.
Very upset.
I'm your father, and I'm your brother as well.
Tator on a big tractor, trundling down the corridors of the Death Star, chewing a bit of straw. Darth. Mr. Darth to you.
Mr. Darth. It's, yeah, anyway.
You know the skull and crossbone flag?
Yes.
Did they really have that? Because, I mean, that's really giving it away,
we definitely covered that in the last series.
Really? I must have missed it.
Alan will tell you all about it.
Go on.
Jolly Roger.
Well, yeah, everyone knows it's called What is that, a proposition? Maybe later, Alan.
It's been 10 years, Stephen, and I've finally come round to it. It's time for a Jolly Roger.
What's your great-grandmother doing down the back of the sofa?
Was she a borrower?
Oh, she a borrower? No,
I come from a particularly small family, and we lost many various reasons. I had an aunt went through a cane chair. We never saw her again.
Was she dead and been cremated when you spilt it?
What was happening around the time of one's great-grandmother? What sort of...
They were using the elderly to stuff sofas.
About 100 years ago, families began to do a thing in order to register their lives and formalise their existences after weddings.
So photographs.
Exactly.
So Victorian...
And particularly their babies. They like to have their babies photographed. But exposure times were quite long. And how do you keep a baby still?
Oh, I've seen this. This is this weird thing...
Heroin.
There's loads of pictures. They've got, like, sheets over their head. Yes. They're sort of holding the child in place.
Exactly. They're called hidden mother photographs.
They're terrifying. There's a website of them.
Yes.
And they're terrifying. Yes. It's horrible.
It's like a woman in a burqa.
That's
There's the mother pretending to be a sofa or an item of furniture, keeping her baby quiet and still enough for the exposure time of the photograph. We got another one where the mother looks a bit like a carpet. I mean, it's really... It's not even a baby. I know, it's a young girl. There is a whole class of these. And
Don't move, bitch, don't move.
You will definitely get the points there for having known about them.
It's terrifying.
Rather peculiar.
Brilliant. There's hundreds and they're all sinister. Like, you've gone... Rather than just let the kid stand by itself, you've gone... Go and stand with that ghost.
Yes.
Oh, you know, it's weird.
Well, the mother will be talking to the child.
Yes.
It's all right, darling. Sit still. I'm going to...
The chair's talking!
I on the sofa.
we have for you probably the first ever photograph of a human being, which is rather exciting. It's from the 1840s, and it's by Louis Daguerre himself. He took a photograph. In those days, very long exposure, and all the people who were there would have moved through as a blur. You wouldn't have seen. But there is a boot boy with a customer with his leg up, as it were, and you can see that, and we can probably circle it for you and give you a little bit of a... And that is the first human being, or pair of human beings, ever photographed. It's rather wonderful, isn't it?
How long does it take doing them shoes, then?
Yeah, I know, it's surprising. It was a 10-minute exposure, in fact, a 10-minute exposure. It was in 1838. That's how long ago it was. And we have a photograph for you, and you have to identify who the person is in the photograph. Who's that?
Is that Bruce Forsyth?
It's not Bruce Forsyth.
In the early years.
It's quite surprising. It's someone you would not imagine there would be a photograph of.
OK. Can you give us a country? Is it
He's British.
Is it British?
He was Prime Minister of the United Kingdom.
Small, it's a Prime Minister
but he was from an Irish
Is
family.
it-
Actually, the Duke of Wellington.
Wow. Duke of Wellington.
Yeah,
Is
the victor of Waterloo. As an old man, he looks surprisingly benign, considering his reputation. But isn't it amazing? There is a photograph of the
had
Duke of
no
Wellington.
idea.
Yeah, it's rather fabulous.
That's just a great picture.
It is actually a lovely picture.
I had an anxiety dream about coming on here. I was so terrified of it. And in the dream, I was sitting here, I think I was on the other side, and you were asking the question very sternly.
No.
Yes. The question was, why was the March hare so important to the Aztecs? And I didn't know the answer. And I said, did they worship it? And the screens went, worship it, worship it. Which was absolutely terrifying.
Stephen, ask the question. Let's make it happen.
Yes, come on.
I'm such an amateur, I didn't even Google the answer.
That's an amazing dream.
It is a good dream.
That's very specific. You know, it's not like... I mean, I dream, I went up to the shops and bought some milk and some bread, and I wake up, I go, oh, where is it? And... I thought, I'm sure I went up the shop and got it, but clearly, well, whoa, that's a crazy dream. Must have been that blue cheese I had last night, but that...
Oh, yeah,
really...
Bill. Definitely the blue cheese was the issue.
Yeah, OK, all right. Blue cheese. Were you actually asleep? Or was this a sort of a premonition?
Well, we'll find out.
Well, yes, we will.
Can we just confirm this is happening now, isn't it?
Yes.
We're not in one of Vicky's dreams, because that would be...
That would be brilliant, now, wouldn't it? You could be the March hare, I'll be the Aztecs. Bring it on.
Let's get some blue cheese.
Were you actually rather giving away your strategy? Anyway, why was the March hare so important to the Aztecs?
You see? Thing is, Victoria, whatever you dreamt was the answer is the right answer.
Yeah.
No, but I know the answer isn't, did they worship it? Because... I think you'll find I said that's not the answer.
Yeah.
What the answer actually is... I don't know, why is a raven like a writing desk? It's that sort of question.
It is that sort of
Maybe
question.
for years people will now debate this. 50 years from now, people will be asking, why was the March hare important to the Aztecs?
There is a kind of answer that maybe your subconscious somehow knew. They worshipped rabbits, not hares.
Yeah.
So some part of your brain knew that Aztecs worshipped rabbits.
Honestly, Aztecs worship rabbits?
It's true.
I swear to you I didn't know that. That's really
I swear, and I think people are going to believe me.
I'll go even further than this. There are many people who believe that the rabbits that the Aztecs worshipped were jackrabbits, which are, in fact, technically a type of hare.
And a J word, which makes
And a J word.
This
So,
is spooky.
Victoria Corrin, burn the witch. You didn't see that one coming, and yet you did.
Well, I dreamt a thing that I didn't think I knew that you say is nearly a fact beginning with J.
Yeah.
This world is far more mysterious than we give it credit for.
Isn't it just a senior moment? The famous volcano near Java, the game...
Krakatoa.
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 What's the name of the movie?
Krakatoa.
Krakatoa, east of Java.
East of Java, yes. And oddly enough, it's actually west of Java.
Oh, west of Java, yes.
It is an odd thing, but it was one of the first big cinerama kind of movies called Krakatoa East of Java. And it was just a bizarre lie, because it's Krakatoa west of Java. So some producer must have thought, I don't like the sound of west of Java.
It's not going to sell. It's not going to sell. What can we do? We can take it north,
East
south,
of Java.
east. It's going to be fantastic.
So within 10 years, tell me when this great, huge explosion.
1883.
1883?
1882.
Right. Ladies and gentlemen, viewers at home, brace yourselves.
Oh, hello.
The explosion, the great, enormous, gigantic eruption of Krakatoa, was in 1883.
I think
Oh. May I just say, WTF?
There was a documentary about it on the BBC and they reenacted it.
Well remembered, is it? I mean, it's not an easily... I mean, not particularly...
remember anything.
It was the loudest sound, apparently, that has ever existed, or at least as far as we know, certainly within human reckoning.
So 4 atomic bombs. It's sort of...
No, it was 13 times greater than the Hiroshima bomb. There was 5 cubic miles of rock was spewed into the air, and it was heard 3,000 miles away. You could actually hear it 3,000 miles away, and it... yes.
That's sounded like in Australia.
it reverberated around the world, the ripples of it, 7 times. It was a most extraordinary...
And wasn't Krakatoa was like the first global event that sort of was the news of which spread around the world.
We can see behind us Harper's Weekly. It was a media event for the first time. The island and volcano of Krakatoa, Strait of Sunda, submerged during the late eruption.
Yes.
When eventually a human party of people arrived at the site, they found one living creature, and I will give you 10 points if you can tell me the species.
Was it a spider that they
Yes!
found? It was a spider.
Absolutely marvellous. Everybody's on cracking form here. You really are doing superbly well.
What's the spider going? Oh, it's hot.
It was indeed. It was using 2 legs at a time. Anyway.
Like this.
So it was doing the washing up. Yes, it was. The Jane was used by the first man to row the Atlantic to attempt suicide.
Jizz.
Suicide by jizz.
Just on any level. I mean,
Jill the ferret had just sex star for 364 days. Attacked him in an erotic frenzy.
Yeah.
Jellyfish.
That's
something that
they do
that are in the sea.
You're right. We're slightly confusing. This happened to be the first man to row the Atlantic single-handed.
It wasn't while he was on the boat.
No. He was very extraordinary. As a child, he nicked a pistol from his scout troop leader and fired at his fellow scouts and was expelled from the scouting
I've got a
movement.
badge for it.
But then at age 13, he ran away from home to live in the jungle. And then in his early 20s, he met a pirate who taught him to be a pirate. And he pirated his way around the Caribbean, smuggling liquor and cigarettes and things. And then in 1969, January the 20th, he pushed off from the Canary Islands in a self-righting rowing boat and rowed all the way to Florida. It took him 180 days, and he was the first person to do that. But it was when he was in the jungle in South America that he despaired of his life, and so he wanted to be killed by something beginning with J.
Oh, is it a jaguar?
Is the right answer a jaguar? Exactly.
So what did he do? Did he go out in a meat skirt and a meat helmet and just wait there in the middle of the jungle waiting
in a
for
sense, no, he just wound them up all night, like teasing them and taunting them.
You look a bit like a cougar, no one could tell the difference. You're a panther.
But the awful thing is, he kept a gun by his side in case he changed his mind, and as the jaguar attacked, he did change his mind and shot it dead, and then sold its skin.
Right.
So it was a bit, frankly, unfair on the jaguar.
So he didn't die?
So he was just lying.
But no,
basically lying.
But he really wanted to end his life, so he went out and
Well, he had a gun.
Aggravated. Yeah, I
You also had a spear.
I know. If you'd really
I
meant
just don't believe this bloke. I'm sorry.
I I don't know how to kill myself, so I'm going to wait here for a big cat to arrive.
Sit here winding up Jaguars for days.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's just doing it for attention.
Yes, I think so. The J part of it is that his name is John Fairfax, and if you look up who, you know, the first person to row the Atlantic single-handed was, it was John. Johnny Fairfax. Yes.
Anyway, you know how they used to have men with red flags walking in front of cars?
Well, yes.
Yes.
I've heard of such
I don't remember it.
Oh!
What a trick.
Because they never did.
They're not?
They never did, no. They had a Red Flag Act, which was a little bit earlier, and it meant if you were in a steam...
See, it tricks you now. It doesn't feel like it's a question.
A steam
It feels
bus.
like it's in the
I
conversation.
know.
Yeah.
It was a trap. It was a wicked trap. I'm very ashamed of
So
myself.
nobody ever had to follow a car? I've
No.
seen a drawing of somebody doing it.
The
I know
Red Flag
drawings
Act
aren't necessarily real.
I
but-
saw a drawing of a unicorn once.
Yes, yeah.
The Red Flag Act of 1865 required men known as stalkers to walk 60 yards in front of a vehicle.
60 yards?
Yes, carrying a red flag. But it lasted
Miles
in
in front. It's back there, it's coming.
It lasted in
Any minute
1878. So it was only relevant to traction engines and steam buses. From 1878 to 1896, the flag was optional. And in 1896, it was abolished. And by then, there were no more than 80 cars in the UK. So there was never a time when cars were preceded by red flags in the UK.
Gérard de Nerval.
No, one vote. Gérard de Nerval was a fascinating man.
He was.
Very much enjoyed the way you said that.
Je suis le veuf. L'un compte.
And he also
Le
famously
ténébreux.
had a pet lobster, Gérard de Nerval.
He did, indeed.
Who we used to take for walks on a lead.
Vite, vite, monsieur! Monsieur Clicky!
Stay with it, stay with it, stay with it.
Allons-y!
Stay with it, because it's good. Because...
Non. T'es fatigué? Non! Allez-y! Tu vas manger quelque chose?
L'eau! S'il vous plaît, l'eau!
Non! Non, pas de l'eau. Non, l'artichoke.
I never thought I'd see the day when Bill Bailey force-fed Gérard de Nerval's lobster with...
One of these words on this board has 28 separate meanings. And I'm going to put those meanings up, and you tell me which word it is. Back passage, vagina, penis, jobby...
Jollops. Junt.
Jobby, you think? Jigger. We're getting a lot of jiggering from the audience. Ouija
It
board,
must be jigger.
Golf
I'm
club.
with jigger.
Jigger is the right answer. I'm going to share 5 points with Victoria and 5 points with the audience. The word jigger has all those definitions. It's a measuring device, a jigger of rum.
Yes.
A snooker rest, an odd-looking person, Bill. Sorry, I'm just an odd-looking person. A distillery.
Don't say vagina and then point to me.
Penis.
Again.
And... woman's coat. That's a nice... thingamy.
You see,
Door,
now,
pulley.
people do complain that there aren't any good words for vagina. There's no way of saying it that sounds nice. Jigger is not the answer.
I think Twinkle Cave. It's a less offensive term for a foo-foo.
So, I'm sorry. So, jigger is back passage, vagina, penis...
Well, that's confusing
flea,
right there.
straight away.
Just stick it in a jigger. What?
Yeah.
You're going to have to be
Are
more
you talking
specific,
about
love.
jigger 1 or jigger 2?
It's also a golf club, so if you ask your caddy, do you think I should pull my jigger out for this shot? What do you think?
Yeah, get your jigger out, rest it on your jigger, stick it in my jigger, mind the jigger.
What about Ouija board? You're at a party and let's all put our fingers together on your jigger. It's moving. Is it doing that by itself, or are we
Potter's wheel. That was what they used to put on the TV when they ran out of programmes.
Yeah.
Just put the jigger on. Not that one!
Anyway.
A revolving jig. No.
Certain words do double duty, certain words do triple duty. Words like... who's this? What are they doing?
I thought it would be 10 times as exciting as a swing boat at the fair, but it wasn't. There was no sensation, just a lot of noise and wind. My hair was blown into a tangled mess, which couldn't be combed out for days.
The inventor of the hairdryer.
Is it Brian May on the latest Thorpe Park ride?
Well, we're with a transport experience, and this person was famous for their achievement in it, but the first time they tried it, as they say, they thought they found it horrible, noisy, windy... Amy Johnson is the right answer. Very good. There she is. It's the J. And what was her great feat?
She...
Flew the Atlantic.
Yeah.
No, that was
Flew
all
across America.
cock and brown. No, she flew from...
Flew to the moon.
Oh, she flew from Britain to Australia.
To Australia?
Yeah, it's a heck of a flight.
Did she ever come back?
Yes, she certainly did. And when she came back, she landed at what was then the sort of London airport, which was Croydon Airport, and there were 200,000 people there to meet her.
You're kidding?
No, it was a sensation of the age.
Was there a car boot sale going on as well?
She had a 12-mile parade through London.
So she was describing when she first got into an aeroplane and first flew...
She hated it, absolutely hated it. But she stuck with it and became, obviously, incredibly good at it. So, yes, now then, talking of flight, I want you all to do a jolly jape now, which is make a dart, a paper dart, and see the person who can throw it the furthest wins.
Talk amongst yourselves.
Yeah. There are various kinds you could do. Just try the type you did at school. And obviously, take your time as quickly as you can.
The thing is, I'm going to make one in the way we used to make them at school, knowing full that they didn't fly very well.
Well, some people were good at it and some people weren't. Interesting to see how well you're doing.
Precision engineering.
Oops, made a hat.
I'm going to put little flaps on mine. Is that all right? And a tail.
I just had that idea.
You seem to be... who's... David, have a go. As far as you can go.
Yeah.
Not bad. Should you throw or should you cast like a bowler?
Well,
it's great.
It's up to you.
Look at that.
Yours looks
Yeah, that
great.
looks incredible.
Because of the flaps.
Yeah, the flaps. Flaps gave it lift.
Watch out in the back row. This is going to be lethal.
It's one of those stealth ones. You won't be able to see it. You won't be able to measure it.
You can buy it from Wick. It's got her name on it. Oh! A suicide plane.
That's impossible.
It defies
all laws of
was
physics.
acrobatics.
Sue, your chance for glory.
I don't think it's going to happen.
Well, despite the brilliance of Amy Johnson, but would you be surprised to know that the paper aeroplane that goes the furthest looks like this? Stop.
Yeah, that's a bracelet.
I know, it seems hardly credible.
You just scrunch it up and chuck it.
Unfortunately, not very good at throwing it. I've practiced a bit. But the world record is 200 yards.
No way.
I'm not kidding you.
Straight down.
It's supposed to give it a twist, and that's what I'm not good at. I've never thrown in American football. That's what you've got to do, is do it in the style of an American football.
Whoa!
There you go. Not bad. Pretty good.